What's up, lads? Last week I made a video about my biggest problem with Loki. Now, disclaimer, this wasn't meant to be a review of the whole show. Rather, it was just intended to serve as a way for me to rant about something that really bugged me. But overall, I really liked the show, and if you want to read my review, here you go. You got it? Okay, cool. Moving on. Now, for the sake of achieving perfect balance, as all things must be, this week I decided to take a deep dive into the thing that I liked the most from the show, and it's Kang the Conqueror, also known as He Who Remains. Regarding the writing of Kang, I think there is an exceptionally large amount of smart things happening behind the curtain, perhaps more than the writers actually intended, and I'd like to explore that. And ultimately, I'd like to present a rather hard but necessary pill to swallow. Kang the Conqueror is correct. What do I mean by that? Well, first, let's refresh on everything that we know about Kang thus far. Essentially, assuming Kang is telling the truth, the story goes that Kang was a scientist from the 31st century who discovered that Earth is not alone. There is, in fact, multiple realities and multiple timelines. And at the same time, in those other parallel versions of Earth, other variants of this Kang were also discovering this fact. And eventually, they achieved multi-dimensional communication. And at first, everything was peaceful amongst the variants. They exchanged knowledge, technology, alleged compliments, and ultimately made their homes a better place. But not all the Kangs were of pure heart. Some were evil, and these evil ones started attacking and killing the other Kangs with the sole purpose of multi-dimensional domination. Eventually, our primary Kang discovered Goliath, a creature capable of destroying time and space itself. He weaponized Goliath, destroyed the other multiverses, isolated his original timeline, and created the TVA in order to ensure that no other timelines could sprout, which would ultimately create another multiversal war. Okay, cool. You got all that? Great. Moving on. Now, some of you may think that this is inherently evil, perhaps even a bit fascist, and you know what? I don't even disagree. However, assuming Kang is telling the truth, it's a necessary evil, and here's why. You guys ever read The Dark Forest? No? Okay, well, I had to for my dystopian literature and film class. And this book presents a very interesting theory that I want to share with you. It's called the Dark Forest theory. Now, this applies to various alien civilizations in the vastness of our universe, but it can equally as well be applicable to various alien timelines in the vastness of the multiverse. Essentially, the Dark Force theory holds one truth to be self-evident, that the primary function of any civilization is survival. This must be so because if it is not, eventually something else will take priority over survival and they will cease to survive. Thus, what happens when one civilization encounters another? Well, according to the Dark Force theory, there are three possible options. Option one, you can choose to communicate. However, if you do this, you risk the possibility that this new civilization is hostile, in which case there's two possible scenarios. Either you have the strongest technology, or they do. And ultimately, the fight will be determined by who has the biggest and best gun. Okay, well, let's say that you have the biggest gun. So, for the sake of the greater good, you choose not to fight and no one gets destroyed. Okay, fine. But how long will it be until that foreign civilization has a technological boom and gains the upper hand? What then? How long can you afford to just wait around and hope that peace always triumphs? Eventually, this hostile civilization is going to gain some type of advantage that you do not have. And by letting them live this entire time, they will gain the opportunity to destroy you, and they will take it. And due to the fact that the universe is infinitely expanding and there are infinite amounts of civilizations to encounter, it stands to reason that you will eventually encounter a civilization that is hostile. Meaning if you choose communication to be your go-to response to any new civilization that you encounter, eventually desolation one way or another is inevitable. Option two, you can choose to hide from this new civilization and keep your existence a secret. However, if you choose this, you're running the risk that eventually they will find you. And then we're right back to our two options of encounter, peace or war. And as stated before, eventually war shall come and eventually desolation will follow. And this leaves the final choice, option three. Option three is simple, destroy them before they destroy you. The moment you encounter a new civilization, you must purge them of all life before they acquire the opportunity to do it to you. You cannot afford to wait and see if they're peaceful, you must just attack and purge. This is the Dark Force theory. In order for any civilization to survive, they must evolve to abandon all sense of morality and ethical consideration and become something more. If you look closely at the genesis of He Who Remains, this is exactly what happened to him. He discovered new civilizations in the multiverse and he chose chose option 1, to communicate. But due to the fact that the universe, or in this case the multiverse, is infinitely expanding, eventually he encountered a civilization, or in this case a Kang, that chose not to be peaceful, and war broke out. And how did he respond? With a technological boom in the form of Goliath. Goliath within itself is indeed a form of technology, just organic. And Kang was the first to discover this technology, and he weaponized it and chose option 3. He purged every single other timeline for the sake of achieving the survival of his own civilization, even the peaceful ones. And because he did this, he ultimately came out on top, because option 3 is the only way for which a civilization can achieve preservation. And this is why Sylvie needed to be purged as a child, because even though she herself did not pose a threat to our timeline, the mere existence of another multiverse does. In order for option 3 to fully work, all civilizations must be destroyed, because as stated before, peace is not an option, because eventually one of the timelines will not be peaceful. So where does this leave us? Well, assuming the primary function of any civilization is indeed to survive, it means that Kang was right. You may not like his methods, you may not agree with how he did it, but if he hadn't done it, our primary timeline would be dead. Kang did what he had to do in order to ensure the survival of his civilization. There was no other way for it to be done. This concept alone brings up a lot of interesting questions, like can free will even exist within such a shadow fascist organization? Is it still free will if it's being facilitated and any opposing action is prevented from taking place? Man, who knows, but that's part of the brilliance of the writing of Kang. I think Marvel really knocked it out of the park on this one, and I'm very excited to see what's to come with this character. I don't even know if Marvel meant for this character to get as deep as I just explained it, but the fact that all these questions were able to pop up with just the mere philosophy of our new villain, it just gets me really excited for the future of the MCU. Thank you for watching, guys. I really appreciate all the support you've been giving me on this channel so far. If you liked this video, please consider leaving a like, and tell me down in the comments if you think Sylvie was right for killing Kang or not. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.